नमस्ते एंड वेलकम सुस्वागतम। आप सभी का स्वागत है आज 56 में। एंड लेट्स गो स्ट्रेट इन। Let's go with the questions. Yes, straight away. रूपाराव जी, गुरु जी चरण स्पर्श आशीर्वाद. How are the last rites of a sannyasi performed? Is it true that they cannot be cremated? If yes, then why? Because they've already performed their cremation. When they take sannyas, they perform their cremation first. Your physical body is first cremated when you take sannyas. So you're already one with the Pancha Mahabhutas. That is why sannyasi is usually given a samadhi. But even there, different denominations or different sampradayas uh, can have different rituals. So it's not this is one size fits all kind of a thing. Next. अनिल पटेल, प्रणाम सर जी. जावेद अख्तर खैराबादी चीचा ने आज तक ये काम क्यों नहीं किया जो आज मनोज मुंतशिर कर रहे हैं? क्योंकि वो तकैयाबाज हैं. सिंपल सी बात है, तकैयाबाज है भाई. जब मौका लगता है तो मोमिन बन जाते हैं, जब मौका लगता है तो मुर्तद बन जाते हैं, नास्तिक बन जाते हैं, एथीस्ट बन जाते हैं. एथीस्ट इज अ वेरी कन्वीनियंट टर्म. Okay, next. Hi Sanjay sir, I've got a decent officer level job in a PSU. I'm 24. Should I prepare for the UPSC? Should I try becoming a right wing public intellectual? I will be happy following any path. Well, you are 24, you have a career to make in a PSU. I hope it is a good PSU. So if it is a good PSU, I think at 24 you can make a career that will take you to the top of the PSU. Whereas if you start preparing for UPSC now and you get into UPSC in another 4, 5, 6 years, then you will not even make it to the secretary level, secretary government of India level. That is the chief secretary level. That is the apex scale. So that is the choice you have to make. So I would not advise anybody to start preparing for the UPSC after he has reached 24. You should be into the services by the time you're 24, 25, maximum 26, not beyond that. Because Kala, if according to these ex-Muslims, you're talking to every street as numerous Muslims that want to break free from Islam, and yes, they do not want to be seen because of certain obvious things. But then if they say that it's a tsunami coming of such people in the near future, yeah. What's the question? I don't understand the question. Anyway, I think what he wants to say is that why don't they come out in the open? Why should they come out in the open? I mean, are we interested in giving them certificates, or we are interested in the results? And why can't a Hindu such as me, not even a single such person around? Why the funding doesn't fade away from these works? Huh? No, I don't know. That depends on the ecosystem because I see many of them around. And if I did not see many of them around, you can understand that out of 100 such people, only one would be willing to come out and speak, even incognito, even with his face masked. So if you are listening to one person, you multiplied it by 100. As simple as that. Every person coming out is not going to speak. In fact, 99 out of 100 will not speak. Okay. Why the funding doesn't fade away from these works? I, Again, I don't understand. The question is poorly worded. I'm sorry. But please, I must request everybody to keep your questions short. Uh, this is basically, this forum cannot provide you a detailed answer. Necessarily, the answer is going to be short. So, if you ask a crisp question, I can give you a crisp answer, and I can lead you to the details. If I start giving details here, then it would become impossible to finish this program even in 5 hours. Mayuresh Rawal, you say that the new generation of Arab monarchs are more mature, but don't you think it's just massive PR initiative given their radical background in past few decades? I don't agree because some of these Arab monarchs, they've basically been educated in the West, and they have imbibed many of the ideas from the West, unlike their predecessors. Before this, that it is Ibn Saud's brothers, that same generation as Ibn Saud, King Saud's brothers, were the ones who, or rather, are the ones who are till today ruling. So it's the same generation ruling. This Crown Prince MBS is the first one who's from the next generation, and even he has made it to this level by deposing the Crown Prince. So this is a generational change. I would think so. Venkat, why don't Muslims quit Islam and get back to their roots? Are they afraid of something? Yes, they are very afraid. And please, it's not easy to detach from a complete system. And you must understand that going back to the root is not as easy because there is tremendous resistance from the Hindus for taking them back in. If that resistance had not been there, then all these people who were forcibly converted would have come back right then and there. There's so many stories and incidents. Then the defilement and uh, the taboos were so strong 200, 300, 400 years back that once somebody was force fed beef, then it would become impossible for him to come. I mean, that is absolutely not the teaching of the Gita. Because if you are force fed something against your wish, that means that that's not your karma. That is only an artificial kriya imposed on you. So no blame attaches to you. But then that's what happened. That was a behavioral distortion because of which so many remained there. Otherwise, most of them would have come back, and that problem still persists. His policy of being client state correct first. They got Pakistan, then nuclear weapons, now Afghanistan. Should not we change ourselves? Yes, we should. I have been saying that for a long time. I agree with you on this. We need to be aggressive in intent, and we might like to cloak them with nice words, but the example for us to follow is Israel. Next. नीलाभ श्रीवास्तव चरण स्पर्श संजय जी, आपकी श्री कृष्ण त्रयी श्रृंखला की अगली पुस्तक की बहुत समय से प्रतीक्षा है, कब आ रही है? अभी समय लगेगा नीलाभ जी, अभी उसमें समय लगेगा क्योंकि उसके पहले एक प्रोजेक्ट और है, ऑल रिलीजन्स आर नॉट द सेम. नेक्स्ट. आदित्य शांडिल्य, धन्यवाद. पुलकित प्रणाम. A popular claim is some Muslims stayed back in India out of love for it. I doubt its truth. Example, Mohammed Ismail of IUMLE couldn't suddenly love India. Your opinion? My opinion is very clear and it's written there in black and white in my book. And I basically agree with you with your proposition here. Absolutely. The IUML guy was told by Jinnah to stay back and to not completely finish off Muslim League because Maulana Azad at that time was trying to absorb everybody into Congress. So just reading to counter the claim. Read my book. I'm surprised you didn't find it there. It's very much there in this. Next. Crappy bird. Sachwala said XM is increasing. True. Yes, it is true. Next. Siddharth Shekhar. I have a friend, a lawyer, and a hardcore leftist. He sent me an invitation to lecture organized by him, Democracy in India under Modi by Kapil Sibal. I sent him a cartoon by JD. It stung him. Uh, Next time you can send him a suggestion, such this kind of. They can invite me. I would be happy to go. Manav Bhatt, what are your thoughts on Tikat's speech? I did not hear it. So, because I was very busy in some functions today, so I've had no access to news. So what will be your impact on UP in UK's elections? That I have already said. In fact, I recorded a short, which is probably not been broadcast yet, but it will be shortly be broadcast. So please wait for it. It will have zero impact. Mithilesh Kumar, Sanjay ji, Namaskar. You have been saying that Hindu scriptures do not call for castes by birth. Accepted, but still it existed. Can you give one example where a son had a different caste from father? There are numerous examples in our scriptures themselves. Satyakam Jabal, for instance, or Rishi Vishwamitra, for instance, or Valmiki, for instance. So, if you go back to our scriptures, there you will find numerous examples. However, a behavioral distortion crept in because if you read our smritis, all the smritis, they have a provision for amending the smritis, amending the scriptures. But that amendment used to happen later on when the invaders came, that process of reformation that was continuous, that got impeded. And because that got disrupted, then you found that all the behavioral distortions that had crept in, they kept becoming rigid. And there was also a competition for resources under the pressure of the invaders because they took away so many resources, and the rest of the Hindu public was left to fight for those scarce resources left with them between themselves. And that's how these divisions got cemented, they got exaggerated, they got accentuated, yet it never went to the extent of a kind of a caste war. It never happened. Caste war was seeded and cemented and got started only by the British. Sneeges, why world gave whole Afghanistan to Pakistan? They are also asking that same question. They did not have the stomach, and they were looking for their self-interest. In the end, what happened was, what Churchill told Chamberlain, that you had a choice between war and dishonor, and you settled for dishonor, and you also got war. If you had settled for war, then at least you would have escaped dishonor. This is exactly what we can tell Joe Biden. Chahat Chauhan, Namaste sir. What according to you is the pragmatic way to reclaim our territories back from Pak, Afghan, Tibet, Myanmar? Also, please invite Dr. Christine Fair, not Flair, Christine Fair. Well, I don't get along with Dr. Christine Fair. As you know, she has blocked me because I objected to her Hindu mystic statements when she went and she called Bhagavan Ram a pig or something. At that time, when we objected, then she changed her stance and she said that she had never said that. And when she was called out, she promptly blocked me. And of course, she is very prompt in blocking people. Anyway, so Dr. Christine Fair, out of question, not on this platform because she would not entertain me at all. Pragmatic way to reclaim our territories back from Pakistan, Afghanistan, Tibet, Myanmar is to first let those territories destroy themselves by dividing and subdividing. And it's a long way off, by the way. Won't be easy. First, you have to reclaim your own India. You get the people who have drifted away into the idea of Pakistan, because Pakistan is an idea, it's not a territory. So, all those struck by that idea have to be brought back into the mainstream fold. Oh, let's think about that first. Next. Sir, my 18-month daughter, Urjaswati, says Namaste. Namaste, Urjaswati. You have any message teaching for her? Learn Sanskrit, learn yoga. You will be a genius. Pulakit, I read about the IUML guy staying back in your book. I'm looking for additional reading material. You see so many references there, no? You can look at those references, and I can give you. You can read Ishtiaq Khan's book that recently come out, and you can read Venkat Dullipala's book. Those references are also given there. I think these two books should give you sufficient material. And you can also look at Savarkar's biography by Dhananjay Keer, by Vikram Sampath. योगी जी ओवैसी का क्या करने वाले हैं अयोध्या में? अगाड़ या पिछाड़ पे लताड़? वो अयोध्या प्रॉपर में तो आएगा नहीं, अयोध्या जिले में आएगा. वो रुदौली जा रहा है. There's a place called रुदौली, which is about 25 kilometers from Faizabad. And Faizabad is another 15 kilometers from Ayodhya. So it's about 40 kilometers from the Ram Mandir. So he's staying at a safe distance. Shankar Mahadevan. Will the NEP bring out Infinity Foundation's works, The Real History? Programmatic Bharatiya Maths is a good initiative by Jonathan Crabtree. Will it come? I don't know. The way that things are going, I doubt very much. Because Rajiv Malhotra continues to be persona non grata. Siddharth Shekhar, it would be great to have a lecture by you in Ahmedabad. Thank you, Siddharthji. Let us see when things ease up. Chris, can you create non-profit organization to donate money for tax exemptions? We already have one. Jaipur Dialogues Forum. Next. Mithilesh Kumar, atrocities in lower castes of Hindus has existed for centuries and has caused conversions also. Should Hindus not work its elimination? I think you're probably reading atrocity literature. I have told a lot of people, bring me specific instances. The village unit as it existed cared for everybody. There weren't even instances of people dying from famine before the Islamic rulers came in. So give me instances. It's not good enough saying that their atrocities existed for centuries. People blame Brahmins for entitlement. You know how difficult it was to become a Brahmin. If I give you all the 128 conditions that were necessary for you to become a Brahmin, because I can guarantee for myself, I would not, I would simply forego it. I said, sorry, I'm not going to stick to those 128 conditions. You must appreciate the kind of sacrifices those people did in preserving our literature. Instead, we only read atrocity literature. I mean, poor Brahmin, he had no capacity. He did not even have any wealth. He was subsisting on alms from the society. How could he possibly have committed atrocities on everyone? Let's use some common sense. Mithilesh please ask these people who create these atrocity literature to bring out instances, and instances based on solid proof, not on fiction. Rikha Sanjay ji, the light of Javed Akhtar's remark, Mohan Bhagwat to meet Muslim intellectuals. Your comments, please. Please change your statement. Mohan Bhagwat to meet Ashraf Muslims. Okay? Organized by MRM. And what is MRM? Of the Muslim, for the Muslims, by the Muslims. That's exactly like Jinnah's Muslim League. Well, that's what he used to say for Muslim League. Next. Sandeep Pradhan. Sadar Pranam Guruji. Today I read TOI. I'm surprised Pak foreign debt rose to 149 trillion. I think there's something wrong. How can it be 149 trillion? The entire world economy is not that size. But still, communal congress in the name of secularism stopping the wisdom of Gita, Arthashastra for Indian army and strategies. Please, I do not see the connection between the two. Next. Dharamveer Singh, what are your comments on Bridget Gabriel? No comments. शिवंत दास, जीडीपी से देश के लोग भारी परेशान हैं. जीडीपी बाबा के रोजगार छीन सकता है, क्योंकि बचना एक कॉमेडियन देखो जीडीपी आ गया. जय श्री राम. नेक्स्ट. Rupa Rao. This week, the foreign ministers of Netherlands, UK, Italy, Germany all visited Pakistan and pledged money for Afghan refugees. Are the West really that blind to give money to Pak? Yes, it is blind. It is blind. We are now firmly convinced that the West is blind. India should take that this money is not is used to terror operations against India. Well, India can do that only if India itself is powerful. Next. श्रीमंत दास, ईमान, ईमानदार, बेईमान शब्दावली के बदले निष्ठा, निष्ठावान, दूरनिष्ठ, निष्ठाहीन शब्दावली उपयोग करिए. जी बिल्कुल, हम ऐसा प्रयत्न करते हैं. अरिंदम सरकार प्रणाम गुरु जी. मैं शायद पूरा स्थिति आपको समझाने में असफल रहे. दीन की दावत देने वाले मौलवी मेरे स्कूल की अरबिक टीचर है. अच्छा, सीनियर कोलीग, और मैं साइंस का. आप भी उसको धर्म की दावत दे दीजिए ना. बिल्कुल, उनको पोर्क ऑफर कीजिए, निश्चित रूप से वो प्रसन्न होंगे. ऑफर करके तो देखिए. Shrimant Das, Satan seems to be the only sane mentality person of Islam who is trying to save people from Muhammad Islam. That's a new perspective, Shrimant Das, I must say. Okay, I mean, I like it actually. That's a very new perspective. Thank you. Oriental Arms, how real do you see the possibility of a civil war in Afghanistan if Panjshir Valley holds out for a few more weeks? I think civil war is already on. The Khiljis and the Durranis are already fighting. Haqqani network is being operated through Pakistan. Then the other guys, the South Afghanistan chaps, they are on their own trip. The Hazaras are on their own trip. The Uzbeks and the Tajiks and the Turkmens are on their own trip. So those kind of fault lines have always existed in Afghanistan, and that's one reason why Afghanistan has never prospered. What I want to see, actually, what I'm interested in all this is that how KP gets destabilized, the Pakhtun areas of Pakistan. Next. श्रीमंत दास गिलानी को मज़ा नहीं आया जन्नत में क्योंकि हुरों में सुराख नहीं ढूंढ पाया। अब जहन्नुम में जाना चाहता है ताकि 60 के दशक के ब्लू फिल्म एक्ट्रेस के साथ कर सके, पर अल्लाह ने कहा जहन्नुम में जाने के लिए काफिर होना पड़ेगा। तो अब गिलानी बोल रहा है लाहौर पे बिल्ला कूदा। वेरी नाइस, वेरी वेल पुट श्रीमंत दास जी, धन्यवाद। Krishna Sundar Sanjay sir, is the church planning to carve out northeastern part of coastal AP and TN as a separate Christian country, like they carved out East Timor from Indonesia? Yes, long-term plans are afoot. Definitely, that's their long-term plan, and that's why that guy, that what's his name, some Rao, he even initiated that doctrine, but that doesn't seem to have stirred uh, our governments into any kind of action. They seem to be completely oblivious of the long term strategies of our enemies. Krishna Sundar, USA announced that it is building a new high tech state of the art border facilities for the Tajikistan on its southern border with Afghanistan. USA has no southern border, but it's building a southern border for Tajikistan. Your view, sir? Uh, USA is basically a joke, you know. Whatever USA says these days, I don't take it seriously. So let me digest this for a while and let me see how it goes. Only then I will make a comment, because it is highly suspected that this whole thing was basically the whole thing was basically a setup by the USA itself. That seems to be the view among the experts these days. Next. श्रीमान दास एम शिया था या सुन्नी था? उसका खतना हुआ था। भाई, शिया और सुन्नी तो उसके बाद ही आया ना। झगड़ा तो शिया का सारा, शिया सुन्नी का झगड़ा जो है वो दैट इज सपोज टू बी ए बैटल फॉर सक्सेशन। इट इज़ अ सक्सेशन डिस्प्यूट। वो जो है वो उत्तराधिकार की लड़ाई है। तो ये इसलिए वो एम के समय तो हो नहीं सकती। तो उत्तराधिकार का जब प्रश्न आया तब वो सारी की सारी लड़ाई हुई। और खतना तो हुआ ही होगा, वरना ये तो सुन्नत है ना। सुन्नत मतलब होता है कॉन्डक्ट ऑफ मोहम्मद। जो भी मोहम्मद साहब का कॉन्डक्ट है वही फॉलो करते हैं ये, और उसको कहते ही सुन्नत करना है। दैट मीन्स इट वॉज द कॉन्डक्ट, मतलब ही सुन्नत का कॉन्डक्ट है। रवि मल्होत्रा, हैप्पी टीचर्स डे। थैंक यू रवि जी, सेम टू यू। Ravi Malhotra, can government be forced to reconstruct destroyed temples? Only the public can force the government to do that. And I don't see much demand from the public. It's only from a section, a small section, that this demand is rising. If the public decides tomorrow that it has to be done, there's no government that can prevent it in a democracy. Then let the public rise up on this. Rishi, how China, US, or Arab world will react, I think. If suppose Bharat will bomb out entire AFPAC region in future. That's hardly a likely possibility. So, I mean, why should we speculate on things that are not possible? So it's not, somebody's fad that tomorrow somebody decides that, okay, that we've got to bomb this region. It doesn't happen like that. Oh, and as per our declared policy, we shall use it only as a reaction, not as a proactive action. Deepanshu Sharma. So, do you think we should have an organization which provides free courses on Ayurveda, martial arts, and Vedic knowledge and Hindu history to all for building our nation? Ideally, this should happen in all normal schools. And if it were to become part of the curriculum under the new curriculum framework that is to be established under the NEP, I think that is the best thing that can happen. Failing which, the courses can be provided, but free courses, I don't think any organization is capable of providing free courses like this. It costs a lot of money to provide courses, and I would not even advocate free courses because anything that is given free to you doesn't carry much value. Chahat Chauhan, so as long as Dr. Unfair keeps unrobing Napak army, why not embrace her? No, we use her book and we use her articles. We use everything. Only thing I had told you that we are blocked by her. It is she who doesn't entertain us. It's not a choice from our side. Next. Sneeges, future of Pak US relations. Pak backstabbed them in Afghanistan, also given nuclear technologies to North Korea, Iran. But US is struck by the Stockholm syndrome. They think Pakistan is still their first love. So, how do you help somebody who is not ready to help himself? In fact, wants to remain in that kind of a stupor. Rishi, since COVID, Modi lost his mojo, it seems, and left. Biden is revenging him for Abki Bar Trump Sarkar, Bakwas. That's why common DNA Bakwas. Actually, this common DNA thing is not something new that the Parivar has stated. As you would have discovered when we were doing that long episode or long series on Sitaram Goelji's works, that this malaise crept into them after the Ayodhya incident. And they were very apologetic about the incident, except Arun Singhal and Mahant Digvijay Nath. Everyone else was apologetic about it. And in that apology, they started developing this kind of a discourse. So, this common DNA thing is not of recent vintage. You must understand that. Vipin Kumar, so how can we reduce the caste divide in India? It'll go by and by. If you try forcing things on people, there will be a reaction. It is already, I have seen that it's not even 10% of what it used to be when I was maybe about 10 years old or something. So, I could not enter the kitchen of my mother. Do you know that? Wasn't allowed to. That was the level to which the rules of Shaucha were followed. Forget me, my father could not enter my mother's kitchen. That was her sacred space. So, those things are no longer there. I don't know whether it is good or great. Why should we not have our sacred spaces? Something that we consider a sacred space, it is sacred. So that thing has reduced hugely, and it would have gone completely had the politicians not taken it upon themselves to perpetuate it. The politicians are wanting to keep this pot boiler going because it helps them devising shortcuts to hard work. It's easier capturing a few caste leaders than actually doing real hard work and reaching every person. It is this that doesn't let the casteism. So you talk about caste, that's everywhere. Even Supreme Court says caste is class and class is caste. So can you get rid of class? You can never get rid of class. It's not humanly possible. That's something that the ancient Indians recognized and they regulated it. And that is why the Indian civilization flourished, not just survived, but thrived for thousands of years. That social organization wasn't available to anyone else. And later on, because we lost power and somebody else from outside came to rule over us, they found it convenient to give us the guilt trip. And we are still suffering from that. Next. सुधीर मिश्रा, उद्धव अपना कौन सा करियर बना रहे हैं, उन्हें क्या कमी थी? क्या इन गधों को हमारी इतनी इज्जत है? इससे तो यही लगता है। प्रकाश डाले। भाई उद्धव को पावर चाहिए एट एनी कॉस्ट, वही वो एंजॉय कर रहे हैं, तो अब उनको क्या कह सकते हैं। नेक्स्ट। भवानी मोहन जी, थैंक यू वेरी मच, आपको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। बौद्धिक शत्राणी, प्रणाम गुरु जी, लर्न अ लॉट फ्रॉम यू, थैंक यू फॉर द अप्रिसिएशन। To gentlemen who is reading atrocities literature, read 8th chapter of Brainwashed Republic, The Evil Brahmins. Yes, that's beautiful work by Neeraj Atriji. दंगल सर, आप जैसी वंशावली कोई नहीं निकालता। मेरा एक मुस्लिम दोस्त है, सोच रहा हूँ उसकी वंशावली आपसे पता करवा लूँ। क्या पता अपना भाई निकले, वापसी के चांस है। हाँ बिल्कुल बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, खुशी से निकाल देंगे। Rohit Matre, do you think that Hinduism going to end? Of course not. If no, why? Rohit ji, we did already done 3 episodes on it. So I would not like to summarize all of them. You can see my 2 episodes with Abhijit Iyer Mitra and one with Sachwalaji. And in all three of them, you look. If you watch the three of them, then you would know exactly why Hinduism is not going to end. They simply do not have the force. They have the power right now, but they don't have the intrinsic force to finish Hinduism. And that power, as we gain in power, we will give it back to them. I will bring them back. Don't you worry. Varun Malhotra. Hmm? Sir, in future, will it be seen senior political leaders convicted in National Herald will go to jail or court will linger on the cases? Well, I am not very sanguine, not very hopeful, because I except the person who filed the cases, both the sides do not seem interested. Next. Siddharth Shekhar. I'm beginning to think that Biden was sponsored by China and Soros just to pull out US troops from Afghanistan. Your view? Well, we don't have any definite evidence, but the circumstantial evidence points to Biden having been very close to both to Pakistan and his son having been very close to China and a direct beneficiary from China. So one can draw one's conclusions. मनीष 1300 साल में जो विनाश हुआ आगे जो महाविनाश होने वाला है अगर प्रत्येक जिले से 5000 बच्चों का चयन कर 5 साल का लक्ष्य लेकर श्रीमद् भगवगीता शस्त्र परीक्षण दिया जाए तो 15 वर्ष में 1 करोड़ योद्धा तैयार सुरक्षित भारत की गारंटी है क्या? इस तरह से नहीं होता है। देखिए आपको पूरे समाज को साथ में लेना पड़ेगा। तो पूरे समाज को आप साथ नहीं लेंगे, यदि आप उनके माता पिता को आप कन्विंस नहीं कर सकते, उनको आप साथ में नहीं ले सकते, तो आप कैसे ये 5,000 बच्चे लाएंगे? और यदि माता पिता और समाज पूरा का पूरा वो स्वयं में यदि कन्विंस हो जाता है तो फिर वो स्वयं तैयार हो जाएगा। तो मुझे नहीं लगता कि इस तरह से आप कर सकते हैं। एक ओवरऑल ओवर आर्चिंग नैरेटिव बनाना पड़ेगा। And Pandey, with the West's policy on Islam, do you foresee next 2 decades in Islamic West Europe versus Christian East European wars? Also, where will Biddu and our Kammo lead US to? Uh, you know what? It's, we say this very easily, but if you really look at the situation, it's not the numbers that are alarming. It is the attitude of the West that is alarming. That West is ready to give a free pass to every kind of a radical ideology. After all, what is Islam? It is basically a radical Abrahamic ideology. Christians used to be like that some 500, 600 years back. After all, if you look at the atrocity of the Portuguese Catholics in Goa, it would be at par with the Islamic rulers. Probably worse because they were far more efficient. So uh, I don't think the problem is in the numbers. Those numbers are still very manageable. I mean, 4, 5, 6% population doesn't really count for much. But then, if you give them a complete free pass, you give them entitlement, if you give them privileges, you give them special treatment, then they abuse that. They abuse what you give it to them. And why do you give it to them? Because appeasement ultimately, appeasement never satisfies the appeaser. Appeasement only whets the appetite. Next. And Pandey, with the West's policy on Islam, do you foresee next 2 decades in Islamic? This done? Biddu and Kammo. Wow. Biddu and Kammo will lead the United States to its Waterloo. नाम में मणिकरण सेन संजय जी was छत्रपति शिवाजी महाराज महाराणा प्रताप गुरु गोविंद सिंह were only against the Turks or against Islam? Please give evidences. Sorry, sir. Evidences is a very, very academic kind of an exercise, and I can't give offhand evidences here. But I would think, as far as Shivaji Maharaj and Maharana Pratap and even Guru Gobind Singh are concerned, they were basically against the ideology. And as far as Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj is concerned, I can give you a definite instance of his contemporary account, his contemporary biography, which is written by uh, his contemporary, and that is called Shri Shiva Bharat. A Hindi translation is already underway. I have already commissioned a Hindi translation of Shri Shiva Bharat, and then you can relate it to his conduct and all the events and evidences you can get from there. Maharana Pratap, we just discussed. He was completely against that ideology that forcefully converted. In fact, when I come up with the translation of the Fatawa Alamgiri, you would realize that Islam is completely obsessed with converting the other. So completely obsessed that then an existence or coexistence simply not possible. And if you really, if somebody is what is called a true Muslim, then it is not possible for him to not try and convert you. Fortunately, we have very few true Muslims, but the organizations are trying to increase their numbers. Marhatta Rajancha Mawla. This is suggestion. Sanjay, it's time JD creates an indexing of videos based on topic getting covered, such that all related videos of you Manvav can be found under one link. Also, more short videos need to be brought out. These are gems. Okay, that's a indexing is ready. I've just been informed by my desk. The indexing is ready and will soon be uploaded. Card 2A. Hello, sir. A follow up question on your UPSC answer. I have joined the RBI and max I can reach is executive director. And if for UPSC I want to become a foreign service officer, not IAS. I have heard that all IFS can become ambassador in their career. What is your advice now, sir? Of course, they can become ambassador just as all IAS can become collector. So you can become ambassador of Samoa. You can become ambassador of a small country, or you can become ambassador of a big country. So, well, I gave you a basic thumb rule: is that if you really want to progress in your career, if you can get into the services by the time you're 26, do it by all means. But if you think it's going to take you much longer, well, I wouldn't think it's worth it. Next. So, okay, Slayer is back. PP Guruji, Ashirwad. What do you propose to find convergences between modern medicine and our ancient Vaidya Paddhati? Well, I would do what China does. That is, make the amalgamate the Ayurvedic course within the MBBS course and allow them, and then after that let them choose whether they want to, at the level of post graduation they can choose which area they want to go into. Right now they create this kind of a compartmentalization right from the beginning, which is very bad for the Ayurveda system. Sandeep Nagar, respected sir, Swami Narsingaranji was unofficially talking about a general perception in India related to women and politics. He's not a politician and straightforward person. His intentions are unquestionable. He always says Meri Bahan, Meri Beti, but certain BJP leaders started denouncing him publicly, maybe because he praised Mayawati ji. Is he getting deliberately targeted? Best regards. I agree with you. In fact, entirely agree with you. What you say is absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Slayer, sir, can such law be proposed constitutionally where criminals convicted of heinous crimes are stripped of their voting rights? It can be because voting right is not a constitutional right. Voting right is a legal right, which is created by a law made by the parliament. So it can definitely be done. It is there in the US. If you're charged by a serious offense or felony, then you lose your voting rights for the period, for that particular period. Vilash Nanda, sir, reminding shamelessly only again, please host James Lindsay and please check out new discourses. Please note this down and remind me. राघवेंद्र सिंह राठौर, गुरुजी जय माता दी, मुकेश कुमार, राम पुनियानी और मोटिवेशनल स्पीकर विवेक बिंद्रा अपने चैनल पर अकबर को क्यों महान बनाते हैं? क्योंकि वे टुकड़े टुकड़े गैंग के मेंबर हैं। बहुत सिंपल सी बात है। Just why Muslims in Ujjain are chanting for Pak? Don't they know Shia Muslims are highest persecuted community in Pakistan? How do you know they were Shias? Muharram Tajiyas are taken out by Sunnis also. Natani first. Read S. Radhakrishnan was leftist, not dharmic. Yes. Whose Upanishads translation best? Valerie Ribak, Nikhilananda, Paramananda, Chinmayananda, Ekanatha Ishwaram. If you want me to name one, Chinmayananda, without a doubt. Next. Rishi, since COVID, Modi lost his mojo, it seems, and left. ये तो हो गया ना? Next, I'm sort of disillusioned by Sanskrit education in India. They only focus on Sambhashan, which isn't much, and even that doesn't cover the full scope of a typical conversation. Just miserable. Look, that's a starting point. After that, you have to make your own. You have to find your own path if you want to go higher. But definitely, they can introduce you, and if you can do the Sambhashan and you can understand basic Sanskrit, then you can do your own Swadhyaya or self study. There are higher courses available, of course, beyond that. But I don't know which course you are attending. Next. Chaitanya, Namaste sir. Should India divide itself to 50 states, move towards presidential system with three parties? Not two-party system, but three. Well, I'm not quite sure whether that will work. And more than whether that will work is how it will work and how you will even achieve that kind of a situation. So the process needs to be thought through. Oh, sorry, but I cannot give you a ready answer here. Shekhar Subramaniam, happy Teachers Day, SDG. Thank you, Ji. In the past 1 year, I've learned so much from you on all topics, especially on Islam. Dhanyawad for that. Keep enlightening us. Thank you, Shekhar Ji. Thank you. Chaitanya, should India rename Delhi as Hastinapur and should center completely? No, Delhi, how can you rename Delhi as Hastinapur? Hastinapur is different. Hastinapur is located on the Ganga. This Delhi is Indraprastha. Should center completely control Delhi as center stays there? Divide UP into two, UP and Awadh, and have Indraprastha the capital for UP and Awadh, Lucknow. I'm not sure how it's going to work, because as soon as you divide UP into two and you make Western UP, the Western UP becomes heavy Muslim-dominated states. I mean, you will have their population opposed to 25%. You will make a West Bengal next to Delhi. So I have my doubts on that. I think UP should stay as one under Yogi ji too. Harshal Garg, as teacher, please promote the Hindu Cafe. Kaushlesh Rai is an unapologetic Hindu and is a budding channel which needs our support. Okay, ji, I will give it a look. Mayank Sharma, please do an episode on Captain Vikram Batra, Tiger Udras, and other martyrs of Kargil. So this generation will get a glimpse of their gallantry. Thank you for the suggestion. Economics on the same lines, based my rookie knowledge of grammar, all available translations of Sanskrit texts say more than what the original says, which I find annoying. Even Gita Press does that. Depends. Gita Press carries what is called Bhashya and Tika. And Bhashya and Tika are a long standing tradition in Sanskrit among Sanskrit acharyas. So Gita Press has a different kind of books. It has straight translations, and it has Bhashya. You'll find Shankar Bhashya for Bhagavad Gita, for instance, or various tikas as well. So it is for you to pick and choose. Want only basic translations? Basic translation is also available. All the Anvay that is done, that gives you the basic translation. If you don't want the Bhashya and Tika. Next. राम गुरु जी और जेडी फैमिली 350,000 नाउ अपनी अलग आर्मी बना लें। अब बनी हुई है ना, आपके आर्मी के कारण ही तो लोग परेशान हैं। देखते नहीं आप कैसे लोग जो है आजकल इधर उधर से छिप छिप के हमले कर रहे हैं। नेक्स्ट, चैतन्य सर, हाउ डू यू किल एन आइडिया लाइक द आइडिया ऑफ इंसर्जेंसी? बाय बिल्डिंग अ काउंटर आइडिया। व्हाट कैन स्टेट डू? इट कैन हेल्प बिल्ड द काउंटर आइडिया. Is economic prosperity enough for crushing insurgency? Never. Insurgency basically is not because you are poor. Insurgency comes because you are taught that you are being treated unfairly. And you can see that happening when the JNU, the most pampered university in India, even those people think that they're being treated unfairly and they become communists. Next. Sanatani, Dr. Gaurav Pradhan is doing a video saying RW versus Master Strokewadi and calling you Congress toolkit. Well, I will reply suitably and you will see that. Next. आलोक जाखड़, दीक्षित साहब, भारत पर अफगानिस्तानी तालिबान आईएसएस के का असर तथा किसान आंदोलन का वर्तमान सरकार पर पड़ने वाले असर पर आपका अवलोकन क्या है? ये तो आपने दो बहुत बड़े बड़े प्रश्न कर लिए आलोक जी। अब अफगानी तालिबान आईसिस के का क्या असर पड़ेगा, ये तो अभी भी अनिश्चितता के दायरे में है। वैसे अभी अभी 7 बजे मैंने इसके ऊपर एक वीडियो मेजर मैनिक जॉली के साथ किया है और उसमें हमने ये सारे इशू बहुत विस्तार से डिस्कस किए। दूसरा, आपने किसान आंदोलन के बारे में कहा, तो किसान आंदोलन के बारे में मैंने अभी एक शॉर्ट किया है। मैं सोच देखता हूँ कि इसमें तो इसका किसान आंदोलन का वैसे तो कोई असर नहीं पड़ेगा। ये असर अवश्य पड़ सकता है कि सरकार पीछे हट जाए। जब सरकार पीछे हटेगी तो बहुत बुरा असर पड़ेगा सरकार के ऊपर। तो उसके बाद फिर इस तरह के आंदोलन फिर आप रोज देखेंगे। अभिषेक कुमार, मुस्लिम पूरी दुनिया को खा जाएंगे सर। कब वो दिन आएगा जो पूरे देश मिलकर इस कल्ट को ख़त्म करेंगे? मुझे इनकी शक्ल से भी नफरत हो गई है। ये हमेशा हर चीज़ में एक साथ खड़े दिखते हैं। हाँ, आपकी बात तो सही है, लेकिन अब इसका उपाय तो देखिए धीरे धीरे ही होगा। और उस उपाय का जो मुख्य जो चीज़ है वो तभी हो सकती है जब लोगों को इसके एजुकेट किया जा सके। वही हम इस समय उसका प्रयत्न कर रहे हैं, और उसी प्रयत्न का परिणाम है कि आप लोग अब यह अनुभव करने लगे हैं कि इस तरह की समस्या है। मैं आपको बता सकता हूँ, 25 साल पहले या 30 साल पहले तो कोई इसको अनुभव भी नहीं करता था। वो सोचता कोई समस्या है ही नहीं। भवानी मोहन राजू सर, which century would you like to visit in time if you had a time machine? The 21st. Be in the present. Why do we want to go back in time? Next. अधिक से अधिक ये संभव हो तो भगवान कृष्ण से या भगवान राम से मिलने जा सकते हैं। नेक्स्ट। भूषण आहूजा, yesterday's blast in Quetta by TTP, your thoughts? सेलिब्रेशन स्टार्टेड। देखिए मज़े आएंगे अभी तो खूब जम के। पाकिस्तान सोच रहा है ना कि उसने बहुत बड़ा तीर मार लिया है, अभी वो तीर घूम के उसके वापस उसको लगेगा आके। देखते जाइए। विवेक खंडेलवाल, misinformation from dismantling global Hindutva conference will get into US policy and in academia. Well, that doesn't seem to be happening because now there's going to be a congressional hearing on this question. That's slated uh, on Wednesday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. That's 9 p.m. India time. There's a congressional hearing. Professor Lavanya Vemsani will be there, and immediately after the hearing, she will come on Jaipur Dialogues. So, if you're really interested in knowing what high policy decisions are going to be impacted and how, then you can listen to Professor Lavanya Vemsani on JD on Wednesday at 10 p.m. Bhavani Mohan Raju, sir, which century? Done. This question's done. Next. सर, आपके अंदर राष्ट्रवाद कब आया? हाँ, ये तो बड़ा। मेरे अंदर राष्ट्रवाद कब आया? भाई, राष्ट्रवाद कभी गया ही नहीं था। ये अलग बात है कि लोगों ने उसको हटाने छुपाने की का प्रयत्न किया, लेकिन वो गया तो कभी भी नहीं। In response to an earlier question, Siddharth Shekhar, Turks and Afghans were fanatic Muslims, so fighting them was fighting Islam and vice versa. Guru Gobind Singh Ji in his Benti Chaupai wrote, Sarab Malech Karo Rana Ghata. Yes, I suppose that's a good way to put it. सर, डब्ल्यू इलेक्शन कमीशन डिक्लेयर्ड इलेक्शन ऑन 30 सितंबर। ये कौन सा मास्टर स्ट्रोक है? क्या दीदी के साथ मोदी का सेटअप हो गया? भाई हम कुछ नहीं कह सकते इस पे, हम क्या कहेंगे? कुछ भी नहीं कह सकते. Nishikant Reddy, sir, your opinion on Atal Bihari Vajpayee? Although his poem Hindu Tanaman Ragarag Mera Hindu is quite inspiring, but was he actually a dharmic leader? He was a socialist, dharmic. Mayank Trivedi, Namaste Sanjay sir, while Taliban is being propelled by ISI, AI, Qaeda, etc., what is India doing with regard to supporting Amrullah Saleh and resistance forces other than watching like coward pacifists? How does India support them? You tell me. Which way? There is no corridor through which India can support them. Then I think Tajikistan coming with them, announcing support for them is a good thing. Through Tajikistan, India can support them, but then Tajikistan, how far it goes, that remains to be seen. Things are very fluid as of now. So I would think that India is going to take a calibrated decision after a bit of wait and watch. Siddharth Shekhar, Guru Gobind Singh also said that never trust M's even if they swear on the Quran 1,000 times. I am half sick. I have studied this life deeply. Yes, yes, yes. I agree. Because that is taught even in the Hadith, that deception can be used every time with the Kafirs. Sarji, batao to, you know so much about history. Which century you think changed history? You can go back and change. Ah, I would change Prithviraj Chauhan. I would make him chase Muhammad Ghori after he was defeated in the first battle, and I would make him kill Muhammad Ghori and finish off completely his armies. Chaitanya Vaiske said, do you think the Maharajas who agreed to join India should have been given Rajya Sabha seats, since all of them are well educated and rulers already? Well, they were given their privy purses. That's what they wanted. So I'm not sure. All those who were interested in politics, they did join politics anyway. And all of them had grand careers, all those who wanted to. Next. Slayers are a spate of videos emerging suddenly to show Hara Tiddas as victims of Hindu oppression, being forced to chant Jai Shri Ram. Sounds sponsored to promote Hindu Taliban narrative. Yes, they keep doing that all the time. Otherwise, also the oppression is there. No, the definition of oppression is that no, if we are not accepting Islam, then we are being oppressors. That is the basic definitions of zulum or oppression in the Islamic dictionary. Mithilesh Kumar, with due respect, I would like to say that Vishwamitra was called Rajarshi and never accepted as Brahmarshi. Valmikis are considered a deity even today. No, sorry, that's not our parampara. Rajarshi is a Brahmagani, Gyani also. Rajarshi means only that the element of Rajas was greater in him. But Vishwamitri and Vasishtha, in the parampara, you see how many times they have had discussions and there were no rancor between them. So, with due respect, I disagree. Slayers are hearing the Uttarakhand analysis seems ripe ground for another Hindutva party to emerge as opposition to Bajpa. Well, right now, there doesn't seem to be any taker for the Hindu point of view. Next. Anubhav Singh, how do you see Brahma Kumari as an organization? All they talk about is Raja Yoga, mental peace, Parampita, Parameshwar, Bap Dada, but I sense they know nothing about Sanatan Dharma. They they have their own beliefs, your views. Yes, they are a believer organization, so that limits their reach. That definitely limits their reach. All believer organizations will be limited in reach. And that is why it's the top believing organizations, Christianity and Islam, they increase their reach through violence. Clear ekam brahmadvitiyo nasta ne ne naste naste kinchan. This quote from Vedas is often cited by Pheku Nayak as Hilke to drive his concept of Allah. What is the context to understand this quote? The context I'll give you. Eko vashi sarvabhutantaratma ekam rupam bahudha yah karoti. Brahma is one, manifestations can be a million. So, at different levels, the level of consciousness, Zakir Naik says that a Muslim is naturally conscious, always at the plane of consciousness. Now, how stupid that is! I haven't seen one Muslim who is at the level of consciousness because it's not permitted to be at the level of consciousness. So, the level of consciousness, you become one with the Brahma, but then at the lower levels, you have your Ishta, the Trinity, then the Devatas, the deities, the different deities, and then below that you're there yourself. And even you yourself are actually some sort of a manifestations of a Brahman, though you do not know it. And that is what they urge you to actually realize yourself. What is this realization business? That's what it is. Realization is difficult because you are clouded by so many other things. Therefore, Zakir talks nonsense. There's no basis to what he says. He just quotes these uh, Vedic shlokas mischievously. Mischievously because he is using his own framework. That is an intellectual framework. The Sanatana framework is an experiential framework. So if you want to get into an experiential framework and you try and analyze from the intellectual framework, as the West does quite often, and that is why it distorts the Vedas and the Upanishads and all our scriptures. That is, Vedas are to be understood within their framework. The intellectual framework, you become limited, and therefore you are not able to go to the vastness of the Vedas and the Upanishads. Next. Oriental Arms, in light of the recent attack in New Zealand, would request to reach out to some Hindu organizations there to understand what is exactly happening there. You can contact Rakesh Thian. It's available, Rakesh Thian, on. You can look at his Twitter account. He is based in New Zealand. Madhukar Gopalakrishna Yadavji, thank you for your Patram Pushpam. ST, the secular slayer. So does Gita 1.4043 talks about Varnasankar, and is it advocating prohibition of intervarna marriages? Well, the Varnasankara, the context in which it is used, it is not exactly what you are pointing out. Because I think that is one that is often held up as some kind of a proof of what is called caste. Varnasankara are at different levels. They are at the level of intellect also. And women becoming, women producing Varna Sankaras doesn't necessarily mean fornicating. That's what I think it is mostly misconstrued as. Uh, It also means coming under the other influences. And ultimately, Varna is your influence, the influence that you gather and what you become. That's why even in Manusmriti 10.65 says that by doing base things, Brahmin can become a Shudra. The opposite can also happen. That's what basically the context, according to me, is. Though a lot of people take it as some kind of a proof for caste system. Next, I have a healthy difference of opinion on this with Konrad Elst, by the way. नेक्स्ट अरिंदम सरकार सर भारत सरकार बांग्लादेश को नज़रअंदाज कर रहा है लेकिन बांग्लादेश से हर दिन जिहादी भारत में घुस रहा है ऊपर से चीन बांग्लादेश में ब्रिज के बहाने से नया कॉरिडोर बना रहा है भारत सरकार इस बारे में निष्क्रिय क्यों है भारत सरकार साहब बहुत सारे मामलों में बहुत निष्क्रिय है वो पश्चिम बंगाल के बारे में ही निष्क्रिय है तो अब हम क्या कहें हम तो कहते कहते थक गए हमने बंद कर दिया कहना सुन ही नहीं रहे हैं क्या करें Slayer, sir, though Judge Yadav's directive is a welcome judgment in these gloomy times, he has also remarked that Babar, Humayun Akbar, and Hyder Ali had banned cow slaughter. How factual is that? Actually, it is true. A lot of Islamic rulers, when they were faced with trouble and when they wanted the public on their side, then they did do this. I have quoted to you Ahmad Sar Hindi, who deeply resented this act of mm, Akbar and said that cow slaughter is necessary to humiliate Hindus. He doesn't feel as humiliated by jizya as he feels humiliated by cow slaughter. And humiliating the kafir is supposed to be a great act of piety. This is actually advanced further by Fatawa Razviya of uh, your Ahmad Raza Barelvi, Sheikh Ahmad Raza Barelvi. Next, Pakis are openly supporting Taliban and Kashmir jihadis. Do you think India should openly support and help Baloch independence? I'm not really in favor of open support. Covert support is what one should be doing till Balochistan and Pakhtun independence movements come together. Chaitanya, sir, what are the characteristics of Krishna Rajya? We all know the characteristics of Rama Rajya. But what about Krishna? Well, Krishna never became a king. Do you know that? Please read my book, second book, that is called the Krishna Yogeshwar. Why he was called Yogeshwar? He had every opportunity to become a king. People wanted him to become a king, but he never became a king. Yet he is called Dwarakadhish. There are so many mysteries about the Krishna way of governing. He kept his he kept Ugrasen on the throne all the while. So please read Krishna Yogeshwar. Vani Mohan Raju ji, thank you once again. Thank you so much. Next, Siddhartha Shekhar. One thing always amazes me. How did you manage to read so many books? Ishwar Kripa, Guru Kripa. I am doing Sanskrit Swadhyay. I attended Sambhashan Shivers by Sanskrit Bharati in UP Sanskrit board, but it wasn't enough. Very difficult to learn Sanskrit by yourself in Kali Yuga. Sarala Bhasha, indeed. See, Sanskrit has so many layers. Sanskrit is a sarala bhasha if you want to remain at a very basic level. But if you want to go higher and higher and higher, the sky is the limit. If you want to go up to the Vedic Sanskrit, then I think you need, the time for Gurukul, you are becoming an expert in the Vedas, the time in the ancient time was 44 years. How much? 44 years. Really wanted to become a Pandit. So have patience. I think you can do with 4 years, if not 44. Next. Vishwamitra attained the position of Brahma Rishi. Darshika. That's what I'm saying. Next. Madhukar Gopala Krishna Yadav ji, thank you once again. Anshu Gupta, I found Viveka Chudamani little misogynistic and casteist. My faith in Shankaracharya is a bit shaken. Please do not read things literally. Why is your faith in Shankaracharya shaken? Why don't you read Manisha Panchakam? Please read Manisha Panchakam. Everything has to be read in its context. And Shankaracharya, for understanding Shankaracharya, you need a very high level of tapasya. Reddy, sir, I live in UK and would like to help for the OTT platform you're working on. Let me know if I could be of any help to reach out to UK venture capitalists. Well, I was approached by some people in the US, and it was because of that that I put in the effort to develop the entire structure, the entire platform, the project, and everything. After that, well, they went away. So, Neo Stock, Gaurav Pradhan or Sandeep Dev, if you have only one to choose. Obviously, Sandeep Dev. Is that a question? It's an options choice. Please Google options choice. Next. Madhukar Gopalakrishna Yadav. So when do we get our land occupied by China and Pakistan? It's hurting when we are supposed to take visa to visit Kailash and Mansarovar. Well, Madhukarji, there are no simple answers to this. I would be misleading you if I gave you a definite answer in this. Of course, a lot of master strokists who can give you answers, but I would not even hazard an answer here. ठाकुर जयपाल सिंह गुरुजी, बड़े बाबा जी ग्लोबल अप्रूवल रेटिंग में नंबर 1 हो गए हैं. जो भी हो रहा है ये सब नोबेल पीस अवार्ड के चक्कर में हो रहा है. तालिबान से बातचीत, अपीसमेंट एक्सेट्रा. देखिए भाई, नोबेल पीस प्राइज तो जो बाइडेन को ही मिल रहा है. कभी भी नोबेल पीस प्राइज किसी इंडियन राइट विंगर को तो मिल ही नहीं सकता. मिलेगा तो किस कैसे आदमी को मिलेगा? वो कैलाश सत्यार्थी जैसे लेफ्टिस्ट को मिलेगा, और वो भी मलाला के साथ. तो ये संभावना शून्य है. लेकिन हाँ, अप्रूवल रेटिंग में ये तो आपको कहना पड़ेगा. बाकी आप साहब कुछ भी कहते रहें, लेकिन ये तो मानना पड़ेगा कि जो भारत का कोरोना मैनेजमेंट है वो उच्च कोटि का रहा है, और अमेरिका से तो निश्चित रूप से बेहतर रहा है. भवानी मोहन जी, सर जी, योर डेस्क टीम इज वर्किंग वेरी गुड. थैंक यू भवानी मोहन जी, थैंक यू. SP Ram Ram sir, what if the Khilafat according to Quran established? Which Muslims will rule? Arab, Turkic, Berbers, Indian, Pakistani, Sunni, Shia. Quraysh. Imam Matu men al Quraysh. The Arab Quraysh is the only Khalifa that is permitted. That is why a lot of people do not even accept the Usmani Khilafat. The Arabs, they were very resentful, and they even today There are a lot of Arabs who do not recognize the Usmania Khilafah. Chaitanya Sanjay said, should India move towards a second republic and have a semi-presidential system and president have powers like that of Russian president, strong center with an element of decentralization? I would tend to agree with you on this. I think we need to definitely now draw up a constitution for the second republic. Time has come, and maybe I'll set up a working group on this. Slayer. Sir, master stroke of Pakistan. Western nation now channel billions of dollars to Bikharistan to keep Afghanis away from Western nation borders. Well, they're saying that, no, that we will save you from ISIS Khorasan by linking you up with Taliban. So they've already offered. The Bikharis have already offered their services. They are the Pakka Dallas. ठाकुर जयपाल सिंह गुरु जी, अगर आज आपको भारत का पीएम बनाया जाए तो वो तीन काम जो आप सबसे पहले करना चाहोगे? भारत को हिंदू राष्ट्र बना देंगे, एक डिक्लेयर कर देंगे हिंदू राष्ट्र, क्योंकि हिंदू राष्ट्र में किसी को कोई समस्या नहीं भाई। हिंदू राष्ट्र में कोई जिम्मी नहीं बनता, सेकंड रेट नहीं बनता, सबको बराबर के अधिकार वैसे रहते हैं। वो मुस्लिम राष्ट्र नहीं है ना। एक दूसरा, मैं पूरा इतिहास बदल दूंगा जिस तरह से पढ़ाया जाता है। दो, अ, हम्म, और तीसरा, सारे मंदिरों को भारतीय हिंदुओं को उनके हाथ में दे दूंगा। ये तीन काम तो निश्चित करूँ। स्लेयर सर, वाई 72, वाई नॉट 71 और 73? भाई ये तो आपको रसूल से पूछना पड़ेगा। अब उन तक पहुंचने का मेरे पास कोई तरीका है नहीं। उनसे नहीं तो जो सहाबा थे, उनके जो सहाबा थे जिन्होंने हदीसें लिखी, वो बताएंगे। वैसे मुतसल्ली थे उनके ज़माने में, वो तो मानते नहीं थे। दे डिड नॉट यूज टू एक्सेप्ट दिस। अनफॉर्चुनेटली दे लॉस्ट द बैटल। नेक्स्ट। ठाकुर जयपाल सिंह, Guruji, ED issued lookout notice for Anil Deshmukh. Why is it not appearing before ED? He tried every trick in the book. Why ED is giving him long rope? Doesn't ED know his whereabouts? Your thoughts? Well, the day ED wants to take custody of him, it can. I don't think uh, the UPA, or rather the MVA government, will be able to prevent that. But I think they have their own sense of timing, so they must be working that out. And because these agencies, they work on these timings. Greenpeace, thank you. Slayers, so bail granted to the five killers of Ratan Lal. At the same time, court saying the investigation is worthless and waste of taxpayers' money, and the same old escapists jargon of right to dissent is fundamental. Who's the bigger monster here, judiciary or law and order machinery? Law and order machinery is, sometimes they also prepare very weak cases. So at that time, the judiciary gets the opportunity. And of course, we cannot prevent the secular infiltration. That's always there. Everybody is now addressing the international ecosystem through their orders. That malaise has gone deep. It was there in Supreme Court. Now it's gone down to High Court. Now it's gone, even seems to be going into the lower judiciary. Everybody is trying to the international ecosystem. Second Republic. Next. Gujars and Rajputs seem to be arguing with each other on Twitter, claiming great kings such as Bappa Rawal, Prithviraj Chauhan, Nag Bhatt, and more is there. Please clear the confusion as to who belong to whom. They belong to everyone. So let these people keep quarreling. It doesn't matter whether they belong to this or that. Everybody was a Rajput. Every king claimed to be a Rajput. So what's the difference here? Some people came down the hierarchy, some people went up the hierarchy. That used to happen in the earlier times, in the olden times, all the time. Slayer, so please release a cartoon on how a non-existent Ummat ditched the Sharia-loving Afghans who are now demanding for their right to settle in Kafir countries. Okay, ji, we will give it a thought. Next, Rakesh Ori, responding to an earlier question, you recommended the book by Ishtiaq Khan. Could you please state the name of the book? I think it's on the life of Jinnah, basically, that book. But it has great references and citations. So one may not agree with all that he says, but as far as references and citations are concerned, I think it's a priceless book to keep. Next, G. Slayer. So if you go by Dr. Ajay Chunguji, then it is wishful thinking that TTP will now destabilize Pakistan except for some skirmishes. The convergence is on Ghazwa Hind. Yes, but he also said that their ultimate aim. For the time being, they find Pakistan as a convenient tool in the international committee of nations. But ultimately, they want to bring Pakistan also under the same kind of Sharia. So they can declare Pakistan as a kafir nation if they do not want to follow the kind of Shariat doctrines that they are prescribing. So, according to TTP, and then there are different elements. According to TTP, Pakistan is a kafir country, so they are very much takfiri, and they are trying to bring Pakistan into Shariat. If not Pakistan, then certainly that part of Pakistan, which is Pashtun. Adventure times are why the government isn't waking up. Don't they understand and realize their immediate political, economical, spiritual, technological, and academic threat? I guess they do, but then they think that they're going to be in power all the time. That seems to be a basic fault with many people who become very complacent. Next. Is there a difference between Charvak and today's atheism? Oh, hell of a lot of difference. Today's atheism proclaims there is no God, of which they don't have any evidence. Charvak only says that they will accept only the pratyaksha pramana as the means of knowledge. So see, there are six kinds of pramanas. You have pratyaksha, then you have anuman, pratyaksha, anuman, upaman. That is, pratyaksha is direct evidence, anuman is inference, upaman is analogy. Then you have artha prapti or deduction. Then you have what is called anapalabdhi or non-existence, and sixth is shabda praman or evidence of the word. So evidence of the word needs to be collaborated. Okay? It needs to be corroborated by uh, ideally by the pratyaksha. So what they say that they do not accept any Shabda Praman, so they do not accept any scriptures. They only accept the Pratyaksha Praman. So if you are accepting the Pratyaksha Praman, then you can neither be an atheist nor you can be a what is called um, a believer in the Pratyaksha of others, which is the Shabda Praman, unless you experience it yourself. They were not into experiencing, they just wanted material sensory perception, pratyaksha praman. A hell of a lot of difference. So they could be agnostic. but they were not atheistic. Next. Siddharth Shekhar, can you recommend a book which is like Sanskrit for dummies and your opinion on Paramahansa Yogananda, author of Autobiography of Yogi? I haven't read it, Siddharthji. And please tell me how to read so many books. You need to have good reading speed. If you have good reading speed, then you can. Next. So I have noticed that our sense of aesthetics has been corrupted. Indeed, it has been. Our city's streets a bad copy of the West. Exactly, I couldn't agree more. Why don't we take inspiration from the Shilpa Kala of our temples in our architecture and planning? Yes, we should. We should, but then, if you remember, we had a session with Abbas Maldiyar, who is a qualified architect, and what did he say? He said that all the schools of architecture are dominated by leftists. Kafir, kindly make a cartoon of 132 foot hoor and 5 feet jihadi. यार क्यों आप जो है वो चैनल चलने दो ना भाई क्यों मरवाओगे देवाशीष Mohapatra. If all non-vegetarian Hindus will take jhatka meat instead of halal meat, then Muslims will get strong jhatka. Yes, we are all for it and we've been advocating. Please do a separate episode. Okay, how is Sarji doing, Boxer Show? Sarji is not in headlines for Punjab elections. Are? ABP News has just given them the biggest party, which it gave them last time also, by the way. They were the largest party according to the ABP News. Slayer. So, does this US charity boil down to the reason of Biddu's compulsions of keeping afloat the falling profits of the multi-billion-dollar arms industry and militia, private military contractors of the US? Quite possible. Because I think Biden is, Biddu, according to you, is highly compromised. His son is highly compromised. I mean, if you had this kind of a situation in India, then probably the public and the press and everybody else would have eaten the guy up. But not so in America. And they said that, okay, America is free from corruption. Not according to this evidence. So, as if their next layer, sir, as if their intellectual bankruptcy wasn't enough, the DNA inventors are blatantly attacking a corporate entity. Even if they had to, they need to learn subtlety in their writings. These mega dissent heard by these dumbtards who are undermining the Hindu cause more than it supports. Well, Infosys is definitely dogged by this problem, and that was very evident when Narayan Murthy's son entrusted the job of Murthy's Sanskrit library to Sheldon Pollock, who is a rank leftist, not just a leftist, he is a dismantler of Hinduism, very much. He's a guru of Wendy Doniger, and Wendy Doniger is the guru of Audrey Truschke. So I think if you read articles by Rajiv Malhotra, then you will come to know about that. So of that, we've never had much doubts, but then yes, I agree that there are subtler ways, which that subtlety is definitely lacking. Next. Chaitanya sir, can Pakistan blackmail West and Middle East with terrorism and get extortion money forever since they have nuclear weapons and West cannot risk? That's what they are playing upon. The only thing is that they have destroyed their economy so much in the process that no amount of money that the West pumps in are going to be enough because they need billions and billions and billions of dollars that nobody is going to give. SSSP, Namaskar Dixit ji, Javed Chicha likes a closet Islamist under atheist burqas. Yes, good work tearing their burqas. Thank you. Sir, is our country India for lease to UK for 99 years? Not at all. Not according to me. Where did you get this from? Mr. Crypto, Namaste Sanjay ji. You don't seem to be worried about defamation cases. Reasons to what is your plan if YouTube comes after JD, which it will? The moral, is it okay to work at Google if I despise the institution? Have you seen how Muslim Brotherhood works, Mr. Krypton? I think I explained to you, rather, Dr. Chung explained to you that they have learned and they actually pioneered the idea of using the Western institutions to subvert the West. I think that should be sufficient hint. To what is your plan if YouTube comes after JD? We'll cross the bridge when we come to it. Worried about defamation cases? I'm a lawyer, so I know how to handle defamation cases. Vijay Kumar sir, the status of Fatawa Alamgiri books. Launch date, how many languages? Only one language, Hindi. Also request you to suggest books on any field to know and carry out to our future kids. Well, all I can tell you that the first volume is nearly ready in the sense, volume 3 that is we're doing. So, volume 3, out of about 800 pages, we have done 700, another 100 pages to go. So, once that is compiled, then we should be able to release our first volume. Give me another 15 days to about a month. A lot of people are saying that you should release Kitab Sar separately. The other thought is that we should release the whole volume together. ठाकुर जयपाल सिंह गुरुजी आप इतने गुड लुकिंग ओहो हैंडसम और गोरे चिट्टे हो अरे क्या बात है भाई आप तो रेसिस्ट हो रहे हो ये गोरा चिट्टा क्या होता है हमारे भगवान तो सब सांवले थे क्या आपके कॉलेज और यूनिवर्सिटी के दिनों में आप पर लड़कियां मरती थी क्या हाय रे कुछ उन्नीदों उन दिनों का किस्सा हो तो बताइए अरे मैं कोविड में पढ़ाई नहीं यार क्या बताऊं जस्ट इमेजिन माई plight I never had studied in a co-ed school or college. निपुण गुरुजी प्रणाम अब ये 2 टके का तकैत बर्दाश्त के बाहर होता जा रहा है योगी जी इसको लालो लाल बना क्यों नहीं देते आहा ऊपर से रोक है भाई समझिए मास्टर स्ट्रोक का मास्टर स्ट्रोक की प्रतीक्षा हो रही है पार्थ व्हाट आर द चांसेस ऑफ बीजेपी कमिंग बैक टू पावर इन राजस्थान as on date 100%. I mean 2023 assembly elections as on date 100%. The only problem is that the high command is not showing Vasundhara the door. If they leave it for too late, that will create the problem. Next. Namaskaram, best book on all freedom fighters. I had one in Hindi by Manamathanath Gupta. I read when I was a teenager. I think that's the best book I liked. Next. Okay, thank you, all viewers. Jai Hind, Vande Mataram.